This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thanks for joining us for this first edition of CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, we're going to take a look at that deadly impact, that the suicide bombing in Syria, on President Trump's decision to pull the U.S. troops out of the country, and the state of religious freedom in America and religious persecution around the world. Plus, in the midst of the government shutdown, we'll see what's really going on along the U.S.-Mexico border. All those stories and more are ahead today in this edition of CBN NewsWatch. We want to begin, though, with the suicide bombing in Syria, which killed 19 people, including 4 U.S. servicemen on patrol. As Chris Mitchell now reports from Jerusalem, the attack provoked messages to President Donald Trump about his decision to pull U.S. troops out of Syria.
ISIS claimed responsibility for the blast, caught here on security camera footage in the Syrian town of Manbij. After the attack, Senator Lindsey Graham interrupted the confirmation hearing of William Barr to make a direct plea to President Trump.
My concern about the statements made by President Trump is that you had set in motion enthusiasm by the enemy we're fighting. You make people who are trying to help wonder about us. And as they get bolder, the people we're trying to help are going to get more uncertain.
Graham said he recently had a meeting at this same restaurant with Kurds, Arabs, and Christians who hope to establish a democratic government in northeast Syria.
So I would hope the president would look long and hard of where he's headed in Syria. I know people are frustrated, but we're never going to be safe here unless we're willing to help people over there who will stand up against this radical ideology.
In Ankara, Turkey's President Erdogan sent a different message to President Trump: don't stop the pullout.
The attack could have the aim of influencing the decision that America took, that Mr. Trump took. But because I saw Trump's determination to withdraw, I believe that he will not take a step back in the face of such an act of terror.
Trump's announcement to pull out of Syria has provoked a tug of war over who will control northeast Syria. While Erdogan wants Turkey to control a 20-mile security zone, Russia's foreign minister pushed back on Turkey's land grab.
We believe that the optimal and only right solution is transferring these Syrian territories from when the United States troops leave to the control of the Syrian government, Syrian armed forces, and Syrian administrative bodies.
But critics warn if the Syrian government of Bashar Assad resumed control of northeast Syria, it would open the door to Iranian influence. With all of these competing interests, Turkey, Syria, Russia, Iran, and the U.S., a new Middle East is emerging, and it remains to be seen who will shape its destiny. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Chris, thank you. Here in the U.S., the government shutdown, now in its 27th day, drags on with little end in sight. And now it looks like there could be no State of the Union address by President Trump. As Mark Martin reports, though, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's reasoning about stopping the speech because of security concerns may not hold up.
No deal to reopen the government, no State of the Union. That's the bold message Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi is sending to President Trump.
Madam Speaker, is the 29th off the calendar for as of now? We're waiting to hear that.
In a letter to Trump, she suggests finding another date or that he deliver his speech in writing.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
Putting off the annual address would take away the president's powerful platform to make a case for his southern border wall. Still, Pelosi says it's not about politics, but a matter of security, with the Secret Service and Department of Homeland Security affected by the shutdown.
This is a housekeeping matter in the Congress of the United States so that we can honor the responsibility of the invitation we extended to the president. You can make it from the Oval Office.
House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy says Pelosi's move is unbecoming of a speaker, and Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen disputed her claims about security, tweeting, "The Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. Secret Service are fully prepared to support and secure the State of the Union." Still no words from President Trump, but he did sign a bill ensuring back pay for federal workers. And yesterday he met with the bipartisan House Problem Solvers Caucus, but little came of that. Meanwhile, the Trump administration now has essentially doubled its estimate on how much the shutdown could hurt the economy. Heritage Foundation economist and former Trump campaign advisor Stephen Moore tells CBN's Faith Nation this could go on for weeks with neither side willing to budge.
Stephen, how long do you think this can go on? How long can President Trump, how long can he really ride this out? And will there be a breaking point?
I don't think anyone knows the answer to that question, because you'd have to ask Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump the answer to that question. Right now, they seem to not be close at all. And Pelosi has basically said, I'm not negotiating. It's hard to reach a compromise when the other side isn't negotiating. So God forbid this could go on for another 3 or 4 weeks. I hope not.
And as far as the president's State of the Union speech goes, if the president doesn't deliver it from the House, another possibility for him is giving it from the Republican-controlled Senate. Republicans are weighing their options. Mark Martin, CBN News.
In the midst of the government shutdown, one part of Washington you could say is wide open, the 2020 presidential election. Although it's still nearly 2 years away, a number of Democratic candidates are taking early steps to run for president. Amber Strong shows us those candidates need to figure out how to stand out in an already crowded field.
I am a candidate for President of the United States of America.
From the land of the Alamo to late-night couches.
I'm filing an exploratory committee for President of the United States tonight.
To a cozy kitchen talk.
So, this is my sweetie. Hello.
Democratic candidates are looking for fresh ways to connect with voters in a race that's still a year away.
New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is the latest entry. She made waves in 2017 after calling out fellow Democrat Al Franken for sexual indiscretions. Now she's leaning into a winning topic for Democrats, health care.
Because as a young mom, I'm going to fight for other people's kids as hard as I would fight for my own, which is why I believe that health care should be a right and not a privilege.
And former Obama HUD Secretary Julian Castro hopes to strike a chord with immigration.
Together we will show that hope can be bigger than fear, that light can be bigger than darkness, and that truth can be bigger than lies.
Then there's former California Attorney General and Senator Kamala Harris.
And our children and our grandchildren will ask at that inflection moment, where were you?
She's expected to answer that very question on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. If the bingo card of likely candidates brings back memories, it could be because the last time around 17 Republicans slugged it out for the presidency. But as we know, there can only be one. According to a December Quinnipiac poll, former VP Joe Biden tops the list of favorable candidates, followed by Senator Bernie Sanders. With that stiff competition, Democrats want their candidacy to stick out. Take a look at life on the southern border through the eyes of Beto O'Rourke's Instagram.
This is my mood mix.
Jam along to Harris's mood mix on Twitter.
A song that lifts my spirits always, oh happy day.
Or come home with Senator Elizabeth Warren. She announced her intentions in December.
Hold on a sec. I'm going to get me a beer.
But candidates beware of how you use social media. The commander in tweet will likely be watching and waiting for a time to strike. Amber Strong, CBN News, Washington.
Coming up, we're going to take a look at the future of religious freedom in America and the persecution of Christians around the world. We'll have those stories when we come back. Stay with us.
When you give, smiles grow bigger. When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Religious liberty is often called America's first freedom. 25 years ago, Congress officially established January 16th as the Religious Freedom Day in honor of one of our founding documents. I spoke with David Clausen, a research fellow at the Family Research Council, about the threats to religious freedom in the U.S. today. So historically, the idea of religious freedom enjoyed broad support. How's it looking today?
Well, good afternoon. And yes, you're absolutely right. Historically, religious freedom has enjoyed broad bipartisan support in the United States. In fact, in 1993, in response to a Supreme Court decision, Congress introduced the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. It was introduced by then Congressman Chuck Schumer and in the Senate by Ted Kennedy. It passed unanimously in the House and by a 97-3 vote in the U.S. Senate. And President Bill Clinton signed it into law. So you're right, there was broad bipartisan support for religious freedom, for conscious protection in this country. But that is changing today, and that's problematic. Just in the last couple of years, you've seen this issue come up with questions being asked to nominees to the federal judiciary. And you've also seen this issue come up in the wedding industry, where bakers and florists, bakers like Jack Phillips out in Colorado, whose faith teaches them that marriage is an ordinance of God, and that therefore they cannot be a part of a ceremony that would require them to say something that violates their deeply held convictions and conscience. These beliefs are coming under attack in some sections of our society.
Why do you think judiciary nominees and people like the baker have these issues challenged? Why is this happening?
Yeah, and that's a good question. And on the judiciary, that caught everyone's attention in 2017 when Ranking Member Feinstein, if you remember, she in the Senate Judiciary hearing, asked Amy Coney Barrett about her faith, and kind of famously or infamously, you might say, looked at her and said, well, it looks like the dogma lives loudly within you. And then she suggested that Barrett's faith might be a concern. And so you're seeing these religious freedom concerns coming in conflict with some of the, especially with the LGBT movement, some of the issues with the contested sexual orientation, gender identity laws. And that's where a lot of these conflicts are coming up.
David, you write that there's a subtle shift in language that can lead to a weakening of religious freedom. What's the difference between freedom of worship and freedom of exercise of one's religion?
Yeah, that's a great question. You saw that language being used by some officials in the previous administration, some other organizations. Freedom of worship, which is the language you're seeing used by some, it implies you have the right to do what you want within the four walls of your church, your synagogue, or your mosque, but then as soon as you walk out the door or drive off the parking lot, you lose your religious liberty. So that's not the case. The Constitution provides for the free exercise of religion, which allows people to exercise their faith, to live out their life in accordance with their fundamental beliefs and convictions. And importantly, the Supreme Court has affirmed this, most recently in the Hobby Lobby case with the Little Sisters of the Poor. So that's it's a slight nuance with the language, but the Constitution protects freedom of religion and religious exercise, not merely just freedom of worship.
All right, David Clausen, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you.
And looking at religious freedom internationally, North Korea again tops the list of the 50 most dangerous countries to follow Jesus. The 2019 watch list released Wednesday by the Open Doors highlights where action is desperately needed to protect Christians. White House correspondent Ben Kennedy brings us that story.
President Trump has met with many of the leaders whose countries make the list. We're talking about China, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, and North Korea, just to name a few. The Trump administration makes religious freedom a priority. Case in point, fighting for the release of Pastor Andrew Brunson from Turkey. But there is more the government can do, and that's really the backbone behind this list.
Oh, you who believe, answer the call.
The spread of radical Islam increases the danger for Christians worldwide.
Many Christians are being killed because of their faith, and I know many families that they have lost so many family members because of their faith.
Father Daniel preaches to nearly 200 families in Iraq, where he faces intense persecution by Al-Qaeda. You told me many priests are leaving because it's quite frankly not safe. Why are you staying?
Well, I'm staying because to stay with my people. So this is the only thing which is keeping me staying there and working with them, because they need help now urgently. So if I'm not going to be there, who's going to help them?
Iraq is number 13 on the watch list of countries where Christians face the most persecution. Each year, the watchdog group Open Doors USA documents the most oppressive and restrictive countries for Christians. Topping the list is North Korea, followed by Afghanistan, Somalia, Libya, and Pakistan.
We believe now, based upon our research, that there's over 245 million Christians who live in areas of extreme or high persecution. It's a lot.
He adds that violence against Christians increased dramatically this past year in China.
They moved up from number 41 to number 27 on the list.
That's a big jump.
It's a huge jump, and it shows that things are getting more difficult for China. And it's a big church, so a lot of people, millions of people are affected.
North Korea remains number 1 for the 18th year in a row, despite talks between President Trump and dictator Kim Jong-un.
I would love to see human rights be a part of the discussion when you're talking about nuclear arms, because you can tell within 30, 60, 90 days if conditions have improved for Christians that are in the labor camps. Right now, there's over 60,000 Christians in labor camps in North Korea. A lot of people don't know that.
Vice President Mike Pence does, and today reaffirmed that the White House will always be a champion for people of faith.
Protecting and promoting religious freedom is a foreign policy priority of this administration.
Open Doors continues its efforts, hoping governments, human rights groups, and other organizations will take notice, get involved, and help believers. For example, Bahrain dropped off the list this year after meeting with Christian leaders to set up a safe space for people to worship. Open Doors CEO says it is a role model in the Middle East. Ben Kennedy, CBN News, the White House.
Still ahead, while the government shuts down over the president's border wall, we're going to take an up-close look at what's really happening along the southern border as we hear from people who live there and from law enforcement. Stay with us.
Parents, the Superbook Bible app is a great way to get your child reading the Bible, because in today's busy world, we can use some help. The free Superbook Bible app has fun stuff your kids will love. They'll have a blast learning the Bible, playing great games, watching cool videos, discovering heroes in the Bible. They'll have fun while they learn God's Word. The Superbook Kids Bible app, available now.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I wills of God, the latest teaching from Pat Robertson.
With Democrats in Congress and the White House both refusing to budge on border security, the apprehensions of illegal immigrants are up dramatically along the southwest border. Our correspondent Chuck Holton just returned from Arizona, where he asked local residents and law enforcement about what's really happening along the border.
Warner Glenn's family first settled here along the Arizona-Mexico border in 1896. At 83 years old, Glenn works the ranch each day and is well known throughout the area. He says illegal immigrants have always been a part of the landscape.
We moved down here in '62, and at that time, there would be 2 or 3 illegals coming through and looking for work, and all the ranchers worked them on and off. They were wonderful for especially hard labor type work and good cowboys if you needed a cowboy. But I tell you, nowadays, the few that are coming through are pretty hardcore, especially the drug guys.
And now residents on the border are seeing an overall rise in crime.
When they come back, if they go by a residence and nobody's there, they're going to go in and look around. And firearms, top of the list. Any kind of jewelry, top of the list. Cash, top of the list.
We don't lock the doors because they'd just break the window anyway.
Billy Grossman lives nearby, and illegals have entered his home a number of times. He recently caught a smuggler trying to steal his truck.
Well, I brought him back to the house, and my wife called the sheriff. And the sheriff and Border Patrol come out and got him, and then we went back to the pickup, and there was a bale of marijuana in the back of my pickup, and he had stolen a lot of stuff from the house.
But petty theft isn't what worries these old cowboys the most.
And that would be nothing to a terrorist from ISIS or these guys. And it'd be just a cakewalk for them to go up through these mountains.
Well, if it's that easy for an unemployed Mexican to walk across here, ISIS come in here plumb simple.
In fact, 3,755 known or suspected terrorists were prevented from traveling to or entering the United States by the Department of Homeland Security in fiscal year 2018.
This is one of the loneliest border crossings on the U.S. southern border. It's on the Tohoto Indian Reservation, which is about 4,000 square miles of desert on the U.S. southern border in Arizona. The Tohoto people live on both sides of the border, and they used to cross with impunity. But it's getting harder now for them to visit their relatives because of the incredible amount of human smuggling and drug trafficking that happens in this area.
Unemployment on the reservation sits at more than 25%, while the average annual income is only $8,000. This makes smuggling an attractive proposition when cartel members offer up to $5,000 per load. Matt Thomas is a deputy in Pinal County, just north of the reservation.
That is all open desert, and there's small villages throughout the reservation, but no major towns, no major cities, very minimal population, very minimal law enforcement, so they don't have a lot of interference to deal with between Mexico and when they hit our county. There's a huge area that the cartels use to cross into the U.S. where they go undetected. And as they cross into that area, then they start to funnel because of terrain towards our county.
That makes catching these smugglers more and more challenging. And this corridor has become known for violence, too. Last year, a border agent was shot by smugglers as he patrolled alone in the vast desert west of Nogales.
Those that want to come in this country and harm us, terrorists, have the infrastructure to get through here in Cochise County.
Cochise County Sheriff Mark Daniels oversees a border county covering more land than Connecticut. He says when the government fails to take a strong stand on immigration, it only makes things worse.
Anytime this administration talks about amnesty or anything that does with the border, we have an influx of people coming across. We sit back all the time and just wonder why won't they do something to fix this problem.
President Trump has so far had difficulty making long-term changes to truly stem the tide. And while the politicians point fingers, the cartels are ramping up their business. Over the last 10 years, the amount of cocaine coming across the southern border has more than doubled. The amount of methamphetamine, fentanyl, and heroin seized has increased as much as 4,000%. While the 5,000 members of the U.S. military currently deployed along the border bolster existing barriers, the additional air assets they provide are also giving border agents a faster way to respond when they get alerted.
It's been a great partnership. We've had extreme success. Just the other day, we were able to apprehend 3 different groups within, a 2-hour window. And traditionally, if we were just on the ground, that could take one agent about 4 to 5 hours to apprehend one group.
With the cartels rushing to take advantage of the crisis, and with Congress and the White House at odds about solutions, the troops on the border are going to stay as long as they are needed. On the U.S.-Mexico border, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Parents, the Superbook Bible app is a great way to get your child reading the Bible because in today's busy world, we can use some help. The free Superbook Bible app has fun stuff your kids will love. They'll have a blast learning the Bible, playing great games, watching cool videos, discovering heroes in the Bible. They'll have fun while they learn God's Word. The Superbook Kids Bible app, available now.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I wills of God, the latest teaching from Pat Robertson.
Welcome back. I want to remind you that you can listen each day to the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast with Caitlin Burke. It brings you inside the stories CBN News is covering. Caitlin talks with her colleagues for a behind-the-scenes look and more on the stories we bring you. Go to cbnnews.com. Simply click on the show tab to find the Daily Rundown page where you can listen and you can subscribe. Right now it's time for your Thursday Thankful. I hope you'll join me in this prayer of gratitude. Father, I thank you for new doors open and old doors closed. I trust you with the gift of life you've given me. I also love the new dreams, new visions, and new talents you are allowing me to see. With that word, I encourage you to make this a thankful Thursday. That will wrap this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember that you can find more on the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. And you can watch CBN News programs anytime on our CBN News channel. Plus, we'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. And you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, on Twitter, as well as Instagram. Hope you will indeed make this a thankful Thursday and join us right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody, and God bless.